The Order has always proclaimed patience as a virtue, but I am pleased my waiting is finally at its endpoint. For so long, you have only existed as numerical values on a chart. A bright star in a constellation of possibilities, as it were. Now with your arrival, the Order nears the totality of its goals, provided you are willing to stay aligned with our cause. As I told you in my message, a splinter group was responsible for recruiting your fellow agent and tasking her to perpetrate that heresy. The conviction of those radicals was such that they elected to perish from exposure to Cloister's wilderness to avoid fouling their predictions and my interference. Their interpretation of the data was at odds with mine. I forbade them taking action, to no avail, obviously. I disavowed their actions then, as I do now.
That sure will be some comfort the next time one of my stumps seizes up.
This kind of collateral damage is precisely what I was hoping to avoid. But that is the past. We must look toward the future now. Now then, I gather you already know who I am, but science has shown that good manners strengthen developing relationships by 5.3%. So, allow me to introduce myself. I am Ruth Basar, third presiding bishop of the Order of the Ascendant, supreme calculator, and, plan willing, the architect of Arcadia's prosperous future. My sensory deprivation chamber. I spend the majority of my days closed inside the silence, dulling myself against the tedious excesses of the body and mind. Want no longer factors into my decisions, but I can see how that might confuse one of such spirited bearing. I am using the chamber to prepare for a test of significant endurance. I think it best to leave the discussion there for now. I admit, when I sent my initial message, I did not exactly know who its recipient would be. But I trusted the plan, and lo and behold, it provided you as the solution. Your recent exploits at Greater Tranquility Station have certainly made for compelling reading material. Confronting an assassin, and thereby sparing the delegates' lives before the rift inexplicably destroyed the station? Such a commendable effort is worthy of acknowledgement. Sorry to disappoint. However, there's something of even greater import we must discuss. I just received the most curious transmission from Auntie Cleo. She wishes to discuss a partnership of sorts, and I heard you were the source of this plot. I'm confident that Vicar Levin played a part as well. But you can negotiate the credit with him at a later date. I must admit I have significant doubts about colluding with an entity like Auntie's Choice. Why should the Order agree to even entertain the possibility? Levin's methodology is usually faultless, and it would be a pity to scrap so much fine preparatory work. Auntie Cleo has already proposed a secure conference room on board the Undisputed Claim for our use. I will await your arrival there to mediate.
Failed to cite her work completely. I worked with presiding Bishop Orlo, you know. Now there was a serious scientician.
Is the instigator of this little affair. Her mathematicalness should be along soon, unless the leader of the Order's too busy crunching numbers to attend to business. There we are. Apologies for the delay. We were resolving some technical issues. Cloister's atmosphere has a tendency to... Oh, yes. Regale us with a thorough account of Cloister's atmosphere. Spare no detail. This must be Auntie Cleo's trademark wit. I expected better. If I was discourteous, I apologize. So long as our mediator proves up to the task, surely we can remain civil. If not, these negotiations may prove short indeed. Auntie, perhaps you should start us off. From where I'm positioned, I sense 3 sore points still in need of massage. Point 1, control of the archive. Point 2, oversight of production and distribution of skip cores. And point 3, management of Rift technology. Before we go any further, I want it in writing that the Order will take full control of the archive without interference from Auntie's choice. What? So the Order can set it fruitlessly idling for another few centuries? We would put it to far more practical use. Imagine the marketing strategies it could develop. I would sever my own hand before giving custody of the archive over to a corporation. Humanity's ascension depends on its calculations. No, such a condition is out of the question. Amenable to that proposition. Less work on our part. I'm waiting to hear an argument that would support such a ludicrous proposal. No one said anything about paying, but... It would be a pittance compared to the future profits we might derive. Involving money in science seems questionable, but having access to Auntie's resources would be useful for our research. Fine. Yes, I agree. Reluctantly. Ruth, I commend you for being so receptive, and I assure you that Auntie's choice values science. Nothing bad has ever happened when science and commerce are combined. On the subject of science, it would be most prudent for us to discuss who will be overseeing the management of skip drives, specifically the production of skip cores. No one understands production like we do. Besides which, we have far more experience using skip drives. It was how we came to Arcadia, after all. Where Auntie's choice manages, the Order would undoubtedly excel. Do not exclude us from consideration merely for lack of experience. So you ramp up production? And then what? Hand skip drives out for free to whoever wants one? Preposterous, and a waste of a perfectly good monopoly. We would be diligent about who we licensed out the skip drives to, and a monopoly over space travel is precisely what I wish to avoid. This technology should benefit all humanity. A year-long patent seems serviceable. And if it gets extended once or twice or 40 times, what's the harm? As long as Auntie's choice is willing to abide by additional addenda limiting its patent extensions, the Order is in agreement. Yes, fine. I can have our scriveners draft something up.
There is still the question of who takes possession of the Protectorate's rift technology once the war is finished. Although the science is still largely theoretical, this technology could be used to not only close rifts, but create new ones. A dangerous power indeed, left in the wrong hands.
The Order would fritter away valuable time endlessly hand-wringing what to do with the technology. Auntie's choice would actually use it. For good, of course. In a gainful manner. That is not an entirely terrible idea. Would cut down on the research and development overhead.
I am happy to accept such a compromise, so long as the Order always remains involved in supervising access to the technology.
Well then, that's that. I don't believe there's anything more on the docket.
There is one final matter I wish to discuss. I require some chemicals that I have been told are manufactured at a plant on Praetor, controlled by Auntie's choice.
I know which plant you're referring to, Ruth, and what comes out of it is hardly safe for general use. Out of professional curiosity, what could you possibly need with such dangerous compounds? Running a little experiment, are we? On what? Or whom?
That is, quite frankly, none of your concern.
Precisely. Partners don't withhold secrets, although they can and probably should withhold extremely dangerous chemicals if not properly notified of what they will be used for.
I will make no progress with my request without further explanation, will I? While the archive is an infinitely complex machine, an equally complex apparatus has been designed which allows one to interact with it directly, brain-to-logic assembly, as it were. Unfortunately, this headgear exacts a rather tremendous cost on the wearer. A certain panacea is needed to survive it, but I require these chemicals to finish it. Certainly, but nothing I'm not prepared to suffer.
And I thought we were the ones who threw caution to the wind. Well, Ruth, if worst comes to worst, I'd be happy to serve as a substitute teacher for the Order.
A generous offer, but I fear you lack a certain number of qualifications. Conscience, for example. That math is confidential, but I have enough reason to believe the outcome will be favorable. I did not anticipate needing to fight for my own physical autonomy, but thank you for respecting my choice.
Oh, how it's delightful to me to see you squirm. All right. I'll get you your weird chemicals. I'll even provide you our corporate discount, practically wholesale. Best I'll say is today's outcome is workable. Barely. Our gains were not as exclusive as I had hoped they'd be.
Arriving at any arrangement even remotely equitable was statistically improbable. Be glad our mediator managed to find a middle path forward. As am I. You certainly have a way of curving probability into your favor.
Well, that'll be all for today. Don't forget to purchase the latest in Auntie's Choice products out on the value-added Esplanade, or enjoy a refreshing cocktail at the Best Choice. And do come see me personally when you have time. I have just the thing in mind for an accomplished freelancer such as yourself.
One moment. There are still the logistics of recapturing the archive to consider.
Well, of course, provide our expert troops to support these efforts. Have your people call my people to sort details. Doodaloo! Brusque as ever. Auntie's troopers will certainly help us manage the Protectorate forces easier, especially if supported by your help. But it would be irrational to expect you to endanger your own life without a more specific strategy in place. Fortunately, I have already given this some thought. First, we must reclaim Spireton from the enemy. Spireton once served as the Order's headquarters, due to its proximity to the Archive. Its loss was an affront, and remains so. Unlocking and calling that lift can only be done from within the Archive, however. So you will need to infiltrate the Archive by alternate means. Fortunately, I am told you already dealt with the cultists there. Unfortunately, you will still need to find a way past a small rift currently blocking the bridge. Ordinarily, I do not fancy surprises, but you are proving an exception to that rule. With such a device in hand, bypassing the rift should be as rudimentary as pie. And perhaps at some later date, you will also permit our scientists to analyze this gadget at length in one of our labs, provided all goes according to plan. There is a computronical key that you will also need to locate within the Archive called the Calcaduceus. The Calcaduceus grants special access to the Archive. Once it is back in Order hands, we will have full control over its systems once more. Until the Order has control over the Archive again, this discussion is all but moot. You know what must be done. May you achieve progress in accordance with the plan.
That was some damn fine intermediation, Commander. You might just have a future in finance. You know, after Auntie and the Order trounce the Protectorate.